There is something most people never question. They believe being a good person means always giving. Giving your time, giving your energy, giving your attention. Saying yes, even when you want to say no. Being available, even when you are exhausted. Keeping the peace, even when it costs you your own. And at first, it feels right. It feels like you are doing the right thing, being kind, being supportive, being selfless. But slowly, something begins to change. You feel drained more often. You feel overwhelmed by things that never used to affect you. You start to feel invisible, like your needs don't matter, like your voice is fading. And the worst part is, you don't even know when it started. Because it didn't happen all at once. It happened in small moments. Moments where you ignored yourself to please someone else. Moments where you stayed silent when you should have spoken. Moments where you gave more than you had just to be accepted. This is how people lose themselves. Not in one big decision, but in many small ones, repeated over time. And the truth is, most people will never notice this. They will keep giving until there is nothing left. But Stoicism teaches something different. It teaches that not everything should be given, not because you are selfish, but because you are responsible for protecting what matters. Because if you give away the wrong things, you don't just lose energy, you lose clarity, you lose control, you lose yourself. So in this video, you're going to learn the things you should never give people, even if they ask, even if they expect it, even if they try to pressure you, because once you understand this, everything changes. You stop feeling drained. You stop overthinking every decision. You stop living for approval and start living with intention. If you're ready to take back control of your mind and your life, subscribe to this channel to get more of this. Because most people will hear this and ignore it, but those who apply it become unstoppable. 1. Your inner peace. There is a kind of power that most people never experience, not because it is rare, but because it requires discipline. It is the power of a calm mind in a chaotic world. Most people lose this power daily, not because life is too difficult, but because they react to everything. Someone says something they don't like, and it stays in their mind all day. Something doesn't go as planned, and their mood is ruined. A small inconvenience happens, and suddenly everything feels overwhelming. This is not because life is against them. It is because their peace is unprotected. They allow external things to control internal states. And once that becomes a habit, their mind is no longer stable. It is reactive, dependent, easily disturbed. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that peace is not found in controlling the world, but in controlling your response to it. Because the world will always be unpredictable. People will always have opinions, things will go wrong, unexpected situations will arise. That is life. But your reaction, that is yours. And every time you react without awareness, you give your peace away, you hand it over to something that does not deserve it. Think about how often this happens. How many times have you allowed one moment to ruin your entire day? How many times have you replayed something in your mind long after it was over? How many times have you lost sleep over something you cannot control? This is the cost of unguarded peace. But when you decide that your peace is not something to be given away lightly, everything begins to shift. You start to pause before reacting. You start to question whether something truly deserves your energy. You start to let go of things that once consumed you. And slowly, your mind becomes quieter. Not because life is quieter, but because you are no longer feeding the noise. This doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you become selective. You choose what deserves your attention and what doesn't. You choose where your energy goes, instead of letting it be pulled in every direction. And that choice is what creates stability, because now your peace is no longer dependent on the world. It is built within you, protected by awareness, strengthened by discipline. And once you reach that point, very little can disturb you. If you're starting to realize how often you've given your peace away, then stay with this, because this awareness is the beginning of control. Subscribe to this channel to get more of this, because once you master your mind, everything else follows. 2. Your self-respect. There is something people will test without ever saying it out loud. Your boundaries. They will see how much you tolerate, how much you accept, how far they can go before you push back. And if you never do, they will keep going. Not always because they are bad people, but because you showed them that it is allowed. This is where most people lose themselves. They confuse kindness with tolerance. They believe being a good person means accepting everything. Disrespect, being overlooked, being taken for granted. They stay silent because they don't want conflict. They avoid confrontation because they want to be liked. But here is the truth most people avoid. Every time you accept less than you deserve, you teach people how to treat you. And more importantly, you teach yourself what you believe you are worth. Self-respect is not something people give you. It is something you decide through your actions, through your standards, through what you tolerate and what you refuse to accept. The Stoics believed that your character is your foundation, not your reputation, not your popularity, but your integrity, who you are when no one is watching, and how you carry yourself when you are tested. When you have self-respect, you don't need to prove your worth to others. You don't need constant validation. You don't need approval to feel secure, because your value is not dependent on external opinions. It is grounded within you. But when you lose that, everything becomes unstable. You begin to seek approval. You begin to adjust yourself to fit into spaces that don't value you. You begin to question your own voice, and slowly you become someone you don't recognize. Not because you changed suddenly, but because you compromised, little by little. So protecting your self-respect means something simple, but difficult. You must be willing to stand alone, rather than be accepted for the wrong reasons. You must be willing to say no, even when it's uncomfortable. You must be willing to walk away from what does not align with your values. And that is not weakness. That is strength, because it takes strength to choose yourself in a world that constantly pressures you to do otherwise. And once you develop that strength, you stop chasing respect, because you already have it within yourself. 3. Your time. There is something you are losing right now, and you don't even notice it. It is not money, it is not opportunity, it is time. The one resource you can never recover. Once it is gone forever. And yet, most people treat it as if it is unlimited. They give it away freely, to distractions that don't matter, to conversations that drain them, to people who don't value it. They say yes when they want to say no. They agree to things that don't align with their goals. They delay their own growth to meet the expectations of others, and slowly they fall behind in their own life. Not because they lack ability, but because they misused their time. The Stoics understood something most people ignore. Your life is made of time, not years, not decades, moments, and how you spend those moments becomes your life. So when you waste time, you are not just wasting minutes, you are wasting your potential. Think about how often your time is taken from you. A message that didn't need a reply, a request you didn't want to accept, a distraction that pulled you away from what matters. Individually, they seem small, but over time, they accumulate. Hours turn into days, days turn into months, and one day you look back and realize how much you lost. This is why protecting your time is essential, not selfish, essential, because if you don't protect it, no one else will. People will always ask for your time, some with good intentions, some without awareness, and some simply because you always say yes. But every yes comes with a cost you must be aware of. Because when you say yes to something, you are saying no to something else. Your goals, your growth, your peace. So you must become intentional, not reactive. You must choose where your time goes, instead of letting it be pulled away from you. This means setting boundaries, saying no without guilt, prioritizing what matters, even when it's uncomfortable. And at first, this will feel difficult, because you are breaking a habit of overgiving, but over time, something begins to change. You gain more control, more focus, more clarity, because now your time is no longer scattered. It is directed, purposeful, aligned. And when your time is aligned, your life becomes aligned, because you are finally investing in what truly matters. If you're starting to see how much of your time has been taken, then this is your moment to take it back. Subscribe to this channel to get more of this, because once you control your time, you control your future. 4. Your emotional reactions. There is a moment, so small that most people miss it completely. It happens between what you feel and what you do. A split second, a pause, and in that pause, there is power. But most people never use it. They react instantly, without thinking, without awareness. Something happens, and they respond automatically. Anger rises, and they speak. Frustration builds, and they act. Emotion takes over, and control disappears, and later, they regret it, not because they are bad people, but because they acted without awareness. This is how people lose control of their lives, not in big moments, but in small reactions, repeated daily. The Stoics trained themselves differently. They understood that emotions are natural, but reactions are a choice. You cannot always control what you feel, but you can control what you do next. And that is where your power lies. When something triggers you, pause. Don't speak immediately, don't act immediately, just observe. What are you feeling? Anger, frustration, fear? Acknowledge it, but don't let it control you. Because emotions are temporary, but the consequences of your actions are not. That one moment of reaction can damage relationships, create regret, leave lasting impact, all because you didn't pause. But when you train yourself to create space, everything changes. You begin to respond instead of react. You begin to think before you act. You begin to choose instead of being controlled. And that changes everything, because now you are no longer a victim of your emotions. You are the observer of them, the manager of them, the one who decides what happens next. This does not mean you become emotionless. It means you become aware, balanced, controlled, and over time, this becomes your default. Calm under pressure, clear under stress, unshaken in situations that once overwhelmed you, because now you have mastered the space between feeling and action, and that space is where strength is built. 5. Your sense of self. There is something you can lose without anyone noticing, no warning, no sudden moment, just a slow, quiet shift, until one day you wake up and you don't recognize yourself anymore. This is what happens when you lose your sense of self. And for many people, it doesn't happen all at once. It happens gradually, in small decisions, small compromises, moments where you choose what others expect over what you truly feel. You say yes when you want to say no. You agree when you don't actually believe it. You adjust yourself to fit into spaces that don't reflect who you are. And at first, it seems harmless. It feels like you are being flexible, understanding, easy to be around. But slowly, you begin to drift further and further away from who you truly are, until your life starts to feel disconnected, unclear, heavy, because deep down, you know something is off, but you can't explain it. You feel lost, not because you don't have direction, but because you're no longer aligned with yourself. The Stoics valued something above almost everything else: living in alignment with your nature, being true to your values, your principles, your character, because when you are aligned, everything becomes simpler. Decisions become clearer. You don't overthink every choice. You don't constantly question yourself. You don't seek approval for every step you take, because you already know what is right for you. But when you lose that alignment, everything becomes confusing. You second-guess yourself, you hesitate, you feel pulled in different directions. Because you are no longer grounded, you are influenced by opinions, by expectations, by pressure, and the more you allow that, the more disconnected you become. This is why protecting your sense of self is essential, because once you lose it, everything else becomes unstable. Your confidence, your decisions, your peace. All of it depends on one thing: knowing who you are. So how do you protect it? You start by becoming aware of when you are acting out of alignment, when you are saying things you don't believe, when you are doing things just to be accepted, when you are ignoring your own voice. That awareness is the first step. Then comes the difficult part: choosing differently, choosing to be honest, even when it's uncomfortable, choosing to stand firm, even when it's unpopular, choosing yourself, even when it means standing alone, because that is the price of authenticity. Not everyone will understand you, not everyone will agree with you, not everyone will accept you, but that is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to remain true to who you are, because when you do that, something powerful happens. You become grounded, stable, unshaken by external pressure. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself to anyone. You no longer adjust yourself to fit into places that don't value you. You simply exist as you are. And that authenticity is rare, because most people are still searching for it, still trying to figure out who they are while being influenced by everything around them. But when you know yourself, you don't get lost easily. You don't get pulled into things that don't align. You don't waste energy pretending. You live with clarity, direction, purpose, and that is what makes you powerful. Because now, you are not controlled by the world. You are guided by yourself. There is one final truth you need to understand. None of this works if you don't apply it. You can watch, you can listen, you can understand everything. But if your actions don't change, your life won't change. Most people stop here. They feel inspired for a moment and then go back to their old habits, back to overgiving, back to overthinking, back to losing themselves. But you don't have to be like that. You can choose differently. Starting now, you can start protecting your peace, start valuing your time, start respecting yourself, start controlling your reactions, start living in alignment with who you truly are. Not all at once, not perfectly, but consistently, because real change is built over time. Through small decisions, repeated daily. And the more you do this, the more your life begins to shift. You feel lighter, clearer, more in control, because you are no longer giving away what should never have been given. Now the choice is yours. You can go back to old patterns, to old habits, to old ways of thinking, or you can take what you've learned and start applying it, one step at a time. Because becoming stronger, more disciplined, more self-aware is not something that happens overnight. It is something you build through awareness, through consistency, through action. So if you're ready to keep building, subscribe to this channel to get more of this, because this is not just content. It is a way of thinking, a way of living, a way of becoming someone who no longer gives away what matters most. And once you reach that point, everything changes.